Oh, yeah.
You got their mics on? All right. So can you scoot over a little bit towards me?
Oh,
Right.
towards you.
Just tell me when. A little bit more. A little bit more. Is that good? Okay.
Oh, is that what we're doing for?
Check 1, 2. I'm okay, Mike.
Yeah, he's good. Everyone's good. Everyone's
Okay.
good.
Checkity check. Good, good.
All right, AEW Wrestling is coming to Moda Center in a couple of days on Thursday, and joining us right now in studio is Brian Cage, the Machine. What's up, Brian? Great to
The
have you in
machine
studio.
by Cage, indeed. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. Having me. Yeah, looking forward to it. This is our return to Portland. We've been here once before, and we're back, ready to cash some checks, break some necks. Do the damn thing.
No, we love it. I love your story. Like when you graduated high school, what were you like 155?
I indeed was. I was not the machine. Standing before you right now. I was. I don't even know if I was a micro machine then. I was just a normal, human, I guess, so to speak.
Oh, I've heard you say before that you were a wrestler that just happens to bodybuild. But what was that starting point for you where you're like, hey, I want to get into taking care of my body, transforming the way I look, get stronger? Like, how'd that process start for you?
So that line, going back on that, yeah, it's not. Everyone will look at me when they didn't know who I was, and they'd see me and go, "Oh, great, here's some crappy bodybuilder trying to be a pro wrestler." I'm like, I'm not a bodybuilder trying to be a pro wrestler. I'm just a pro wrestler that happened to bodybuild.
Yeah, I love that line.
Yes, it's so good because it's like back in the '80s, like everyone's gimmick and personality is the same. They're just jacked up 300-pound dude that they had no athleticism, no ability, like they couldn't move. I mean, they look great, but like that was it. So they see me, especially in this day and age of wrestling, and for the last several years, how it's evolved. There's so much more, athletics and crazy moves and the stuff we do. So they're thinking, great, this guy's got the freaking dexterity of a 1980s glob figure. Like he ain't gonna be able to do anything. And then they see what I can do on top of how you look, and they're like, oh my gosh. To go back to the question, so I always wanted to be a wrestler, and it was never like a plan to become like the size or muscularity that I was, but I knew I wanted to look the part, be the part, act the part. So after I graduated high school, I was like, you know what? And I backyard wrestled like a lot of normal pro wrestlers did in that heyday. And like a lot of my friends that did it with me were like, 130 pounds. So relatively, I was the big guy, but I'm not big at all. So I was like, you know what? This ain't going to cut the mustard. If I want to go to wrestling school and I want to show up like for real, not just like, hey, I want to be a wrestler, guys. I was like, let me start taking it serious. So my PE teacher from high school was a friend of mine who was also a big wrestling fan. He'd open up the weight room, and I'd wake up every morning, 7 a.m. in the summer, and I would jog probably over a mile to my school. And then he'd open up the weight room, and I just started training, and I just fell in love with it. And I dedicated it all to like just my passion, desire to become a wrestler. Like, so then I just started eating better and eating more. And I just dropped soda like that. I was like, as soon as one meal actually, and I was eating pizza, I couldn't, we were on this big road trip watching a bunch of wrestling shows, and I just ran out of money, so I couldn't afford soda. And we're eating pizza, and without drinking soda, I was able to eat so much more pizza. Not like pizza's obviously the king of nutrition, but though it tastes great, I just had this epiphany, like, wow, I mean, soda's just sugar and empty calories, and and I could eat more real food to gain more size. I go, I'm never drinking soda again, and I literally never drink soda again. So that was when I was 19. So we're going 21 years now.
Brian, I've known wrestlers over the years, and one of their biggest complaints was the schedule and how hard it is to maintain a physique like you have with all the travel and everything, getting your workouts in, eating right, and all that. How hard has it been for you to maintain this?
I mean, it's definitely not easy, but now it's just become my lifestyle. Like, and I just posted some pictures on my story, and I had some bodybuilder friends like, man, I don't know how you do it with all the traveling and on the road you did, and like, we got Mandy over here taking me around, but sure you see me in the car twice. When we came back from our earlier media appearance, I went right to the gym. I did all my cardio. I did a bonus workout because my real workout will be later today when I actually work out. And then I have my meal bags right here with more of my meals. So it's all about prepping and preparing. And it's really not that hard because I'm just so used to it. But I mean, it's either you fail to prepare or you prepare to fail right there with that. If you're not planning ahead, that's your excuse of it all. So it's very doable, very easy. But it takes a little bit of effort and planning ahead. And if I stopped wrestling tomorrow, I would still do it. It's just my lifestyle now. So, and I feel like too with wrestling though, it's like a prerequisite now for me as well. It's like whether you like me or not, I feel like if Brian Cage is on the card, I'm going to usually show up looking like Brian Cage should look. So like I can't not do it now.
That's awesome. I've done 6 bodybuilding shows
Oh
myself.
dang!
I've had the same workout partner for 32 years, so it's like a bond that we have. And so that's what I love. The things that you do and the way that you talk and the life that you live, like I understand it because I've been there and stuff. But the traveling with the food, like, you got to package this up. So you get your chicken, your rice, your sweet potatoes, whatever you got, you're taking with you. Vegetables are hard because they spoil, so you got to watch out for that. Then you got your water intake, all these different things. But what I love about you is that you understand that not only do you want to take care of yourself and it's part of your lifestyle, but when you get on stage and the persona and everything you're trying to present, you want to make sure you're in the best shape possible. And that's all the process and everything, and it pays off for you.
Oh, for sure. And that goes with like staying ready. I'm about to like reach into my Batman utility belt down here, which is my little 6-pack bag. And like same thing, like I used to talk about water. I have my ice cup, which ice will melt in it. I'll keep ice down all the time and keep refilling up with water. I have my other cup for all my shakes and pre-workouts and supplements. And I do that too. I weigh out all my stuff, not only food, but all my so I don't have to bring the whole containers. I'll sit there. If I need 4 days of training, I'll weigh out 4 days of post-workout carbs, post-workout protein shakes, pre-workout, intra-workout, the whole 9 years. So like it's all in there, all organized. And I don't know any other way to be. But yeah, I when I was prepping for shows, because also not only do I live the lifestyle, but for a few years there, every bodybuilding show I've done and have competed in, I've still wrestled and traveled every week, all week long, all the way up to the show. And
That's
then
hardcore, right there.
and people that haven't done one or the other don't realize how ridiculous that is. And then every Sunday after a bodybuilding show I've gotten up in the morning, I've done an hour of cardio, I trained legs. You don't train legs last week, and then I've flown or drove to my show that night as well. Like, but then you look awesome the next day. So, yeah, it's pretty incredible. I was actually going to do, so I was going to go for my pro card back in 2015, and Lucha Underground, which I was part of then, they started the next season 2 weeks sooner than they were supposed to, and that was going to follow the week of the Miami Nationals. Like, no, I've been prepping for the show, my pro card, and they're like, oh no, we really need you on that weekend, and I'm like, like what a waste, and we went back and forth, and I was like, we can't just film because it wasn't airing live, and we filmed a lot of stuff out of order. And he's like, no, we really need you that weekend. And we get paid per episode, and the weekends we come down there.
Yeah.
So they're like, how about this? What if we paid you a bonus not to do the show? And what was awesome about that was, if you know too, bodybuilding, especially pro card, if I win, I'm only spending money. I'm not winning any money.
No, that's
That's
what
right.
it is.
So, yeah.
You might get a trophy and a
Yeah.
T-shirt, but
Yeah.
you might have to pay for the T-shirt.
You're right. Well, no, and even then, like, which is crazy, the only sport. If you win a pro card, you have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Congratulations, you won the show. You can turn pro. Sweet, that's $500. Like, wait, what? Hold on, I don't get it for free. So when they pitched me that, I was like, well, okay, hold on, maybe on to something there. But I'd already prepped. I was already in good condition. So I was like, all right, I'll do this show to requalify at least because I'm already like in stage shape basically. And then I had another contract obligation with AAA, who worked with Lucha Underground at the time, like a few weeks later. So then a few weeks later, there's a new show in LA, and how it was going to fall, I was like, I could do Lucha Underground because how we taped it. I could show up, do the prejudging, go to Lucha Underground, which usually filmed in the afternoon, like 4 to 7, show back up for the night show because at that point, bodybuilding is always the last. As like I could do it all in the same day where I could wrestle and compete and do everything all in the same day. I had somebody to come film it and document it. And I was so stoked because it was going to be so challenging, but like cool to be able to try to do. And then since it was a brand new show on the NPC calendar in LA, and they have so many shows out there anyways, they pulled it because there was enough contests. So then I was like, and then after that, I was like, all right, I'm over it. I'm not prepping anymore. I'm done. But it would have been so cool to have done that, just to have had that documented and just done that experience. So.
Dude, he's a badass Godfather. I admire that so much, Brian.
Yeah, I know. I've watched him work several times. But you mentioned high school, and I'm curious. I saw that you graduated in 2000. I know you get the question all the time. 2002 with Aaron Rodgers in high school. Did you know him?
Yeah. No, what's funny too is Aaron was really cool. It's not like we're like best friends, but I talked to him several times, and he was like one of like the cool kids, one of the popular kids. Still the football quarterback, but he wasn't, a dick like a lot of like those type of people would be. Sorry, people are offended by that, but then maybe don't be a dick then. But but no, he was cool, and he was actually not a big wrestling fan, but a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
And he would talk to me about, oh, did you watch it last night? Because he knew I was, I was out of the closet. I was one of the kids that wore the wrestling shirts to the school, and everybody know. And it was so funny because even though, especially that time, we're talking like, right before Attitude Era, late '90s, early 2000s, like everyone I felt like watched wrestling. Even if you didn't like it, you watched it. It was so popular, but yet you were such a loser if you liked it, or at least admitted to watching it, even though everybody watched it. So like, me and like the few of us that would wear, a DX shirt, an NWO shirt, or whatever shirt, they try to like say something like, oh, that crap's so fake, or this, that, whatever. But then when no one's looking, they'd be like, yo, man, did you watch Sting last night? And they would like know everything. They always want to talk about it, like, and act like it was, like taboo. I'm like, dude, I was like, I know you watched it. Everybody watched it. Don't act like it's not cool. So.
I look at you now, though, and I think football player. But at 155, it would have been a little more difficult.
Yeah, I was a big, really big skateboarder all throughout high school as well. We actually we got a bunch of decks from Birdhouse at AEW did in Jacksonville when we were stuck out there during the pandemic. And I actually, now that I take one for myself, but I built a couple for some of the boys, because then we knew that I was a big skater, and I worked at a skate shop too. And actually,
That's
and
awesome.
Helico himself even said that the decks I was putting together were better than the ones that Darby Allin were putting together. So I'm just saying, I got my skills. I got the little unknown hidden talents there.
Yeah, I love it. We got Brian Cage here in studio. AEW coming to Moda Center on Thursday. Serious question for you: the workouts. I mean, you're a little bit lighter maybe today than you were, several years ago. But you're a big guy with a big frame. Is the wrestling harder? Is it the travel? Is it the workouts? What's harder in your joints and your body now?
I mean, obviously, there's you can have a moment in a match where that's what really crushes you, hurts you, it's injured. But on just the day to day, if everything's going good, I got to tell you, the traveling is the worst. I've slayed a leg workout. I've had an awesome match, and then I've gotten off a plane where I just got hit by a bus. I'm like, what just happened? I was feeling pretty good, and you get out of there, and you're like, oh, especially like at least now I have long enough tenure in wrestling where I get to pretty much pick and choose my flights. But you're coming up and you're having to do all the red eyes and all the first flights on the morning, especially too, like if you're red eyeing over, then you're up all day, and then you're at the show till 2 a.m., then you got a 6 a.m. flight. And also too, like for a while there, like when the indies were really hot, and even though I was still doing Lucha Underground, even Impact, like I'd be working 4 or 5 times a week at sometimes. And we're not doing like a loop around Texas. It's like, oh, Washington, oh, New York, oh, Florida, oh, Chicago, sure, all different time zone every day. Yeah. So it's not like you're going like to Texas and going, oh, I'll go to Dallas, Austin, and then back to, San Antonio, which all like within driving distance. Oh, you're flying all over the place. So like, yeah, that just starts to wreck your body for sure. But yeah, I mean, obviously like the big injuries are from wrestling though, when it happens.
Brian, I followed you a long time, and you really have paid your dues in this business. I think you've worked for a lot of different federations, a lot of different companies and everything. Do you ever get to the point where you get frustrated about the whole thing and say, God, I'm traveling all over. I'm not making, people don't understand. When you start, you're not making a lot of money, right? Guys lived out of their cars and stuff.
Oh, for sure. I mean, again, too, when I first started too, that's like before, indie wrestling was cool. So like my first year, I got paid $20 a couple times. Like the rest of it was for free. Like I was making no money, or you'd go to sell an 8x10 for $5 or something. So, even getting signed developmentally to WWE, I wasn't making a lot of money. And then when I got released from there, like, cause I essentially was like, because, they didn't have NXT where it was TV. So it was like out of sight, out of mind. So after I was under salary contract, with WWE, I went back to like begging to get on shows again for $20 or $40. I'm like, this like such a humbling experience. I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm going to go out there. I'm going to grind. I'm going to put on a great show. I'm going to turn that 20 to 40 into 60 into 75 into 100 and so on and so forth. But I mean, it just, that's why the difference between people that are in this to try to like make money and people who do it just because they love it and want to do it. And like, yeah, I've done it for a long time. It's all I ever want to do. And yeah, thankfully now I'm making plenty good enough money where I can't complain. So
haven't you just signed a new deal? They just
I signed. I don't know how, like, it's so funny. Somebody asked me if I was ever going to, would they ever see me in WWE? And I said, well, when my deal was coming up, and I did have some talks back and forth, but obviously I stayed inside with AEW. So I signed that new deal, which was a great deal last year. But how that, I'm not even sure what podcast, whoever talked about it, However, it dropped. It all of a sudden broke over the internet as if I just now signed the deal. I'm like, what? That was like a year ago. But hey, better late than never. Whatever. I'll take it.
Tony Khan, a pretty good guy.
Oh yeah, he does all right. He's all right.
That's his boss, just for people who don't understand.
No, he's a great dude. That's one thing too. Like going back to it too. There's there could be pros and cons with both places, and a big pro too is how Tony is not only such a great human being and a fan, but then he treats us like actual human being, not like cattle. And obviously I haven't been over there for a long time, and they got their own new stuff going on, and Triple H is under control, so I can't sit here and say I know how it is.
It's different now.
Yeah. But I mean, Tony treats us all fantastic, and it's so much more easygoing, laid back. I mean, the show right now, like, so if I would have gotten signed, and I have gotten re-signed before, where I've got my contract rescinded, right when I got signed, I had torn my bicep in Impact right before I was going to leave over to AEW, and I'm freaking out, thinking like, great, now my contract's going to get rescinded. I'm going to be out of work for X amount of months, so I'm healed. So, maybe I'll get signed then, maybe I won't. Who knows? All these questions. Tony hits me up and he goes, hey, don't stress, don't worry. I know you're probably thinking, you're going to lose your deal. He's like, no, we want you. We believe in you. He's like, go get the surgery. Don't stress about it. Because I almost thought about not trying to get the surgery just to work around it. And he goes, and then he's like, we'll sign you, we'll pay you, and whenever you're ready, just let us know and we'll bring you in. And then he even offered to fly me out to Jacksonville to have the Jags doctor do the surgery if I wanted. And the only reason I said no was because I already had it set up, and you have an X amount of time to repair a torn tendon off the bone before it scars down, and then it's like not necessarily unrepairable, but it just will have more complications. So I was like, again, it just speaks volumes. Whereas other places would very easily go, hey, you know what? Sorry, bad luck. Talk to us later. Because I get it. Why would you buy a brand new car and then go, hey, by the way, you can't pick up the car for 6 months, but it's yours.
Yeah.
Make those payments,
Yeah.
and then you can come drive it later on.
Yeah, Brian, I wanted to ask you this too. And you're a big guy, obviously. AEW has some smaller wrestlers. That's one of the good things about it. They give those guys a chance to compete, and they're often very entertaining. But as a guy who's big, how hard is it to put some of those guys over? I mean, I know this is an inside question kind of, but you're a big guy, and a lot of people can't buy the fact that one of those little guys can beat you in the ring, but you always seem to pull that off and make it look like, yeah, I see that.
And I do agree with what you're saying. I understand that too. And again, going back to it, I was never trying to be like this big guy. And obviously, too, I'm not like some big 7-foot monster either.
Right.
But my work rate and my work ability, I've always tried to be like Captain Versatility. So with that being said, like whether you're big, small, in shape, out of shape, green, great, female, male, whatever, I've always been like, look, hardcore, death, whatever. I was like, I want to be able to work every single style and be good at it, even if I don't like it. Like actually intergender wrestling, I'm not always, it's for the same reasons of like believability. I was never a huge fan of it, but I feel like, I'll toot my own horn, I have some of the best intergender matches that there's been. I've really made a lot of girls like Tessa, like Jordan Grace and whatnot. And I've gone out there just to show, like, look, I can do it. And even for someone at my size and stature, can make it entertaining and somewhat believable. So I feel like that is an attribute that's, I guess special to me. But, yeah, it doesn't mean that it doesn't get frustrating when it's like, all right, come on, man. Like, don't dumb me down too much or, like where it takes away the specialness. Because that is one thing, too, where obviously, you should never be too good to put over anybody. But also, like, I feel like throughout my time and throughout, other places and whatnot, I feel like whenever I have taken an L or loss, it's meant something, it's mattered, or it's made somebody.
Storyline,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So, like, if that's, then that should be the case, especially if you just come out, like, if somebody sees me and they don't watch wrestling at all, they don't know anything about it, but obviously see me, and they're like, oh, dang, whatever, and then like, wait, how's he losing? Like, they don't make sense of it. I get where that'd be like, okay, they're confused or doesn't make sense, or they don't like it. But that way, if it doesn't happen, and you can build up to it, then, if I beat a Darby Allin every single day, twice on Sunday, and then he finally overcomes, the David versus Goliath story, which is a very easy story to tell, then obviously like, oh, now that win just matters and it means so much more. Whereas like, if you just lose right out the gate every single time, it's like, oh, cool. Like it's a great match, great performance, but then you don't have that emotional investment that you can get, if you do it the other way.
Yeah.
We're talking with Brian Cage, AEW Wrestling coming to Moda Center on Thursday. At your age, what are you, 40 now?
Yeah, I just turned 40, yeah.
Is it harder to get opportunities at that age? Or what do you see in AEW with that?
You know what? It's so funny. Maybe if you would asked me that 10 years ago, I would have said yes. But I feel, and not only just because, they're small guys, I still feel like I I feel great. I don't feel like I look my age. I feel like I'm still in better shape and look better than the majority of people in the business, period, no matter if they're younger or older. So, yeah, I don't feel like that's a factor at all for me. Like,
Were you always as acrobatic as you are now? Could you do that stuff at a smaller size, or did you have to learn? I mean, some of the stuff you guys do is a little bit scary.
funny enough, too, like, so since I started out, and I was always fit and in shape. But funny enough, yeah, even when I was smaller, that's when I thought like, oh, he used to be smaller, so he did all these flips. I never did those flips then, which was crazy. I didn't start doing more like dives and flips and springboards and all stuff until actually I was bigger, and I just tried to do them, and I was like, oh, let me just see, just messing around, because I jump off a diving board into the water, and I just tried to do it, and then I could. I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. And I remember like the very first time I was 6'9", and I did it just for fun. I don't know, like I knew I could do it, but I was actually working Roger Strong at PWG, and he had me set up like he was in 6'9". I mean, they all cheered like for the 6'9", and then and he wasn't going for 6'9", but whatever. I cut him off, and then they're all like, "Oh," and they're all booed. I'm like, "Do you want to see 6'9" that bad?" So I just put on the ropes. I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna get my shit in," and went and freaking hit the 6'9", and everyone lost their minds. And I'm like, "Really?" Like nobody could believe. I go, "That was easy." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So like I would just start to do that stuff more and more often, and I felt like that's what stood me out even more, because people wouldn't expect that, or
Yeah.
I've ever seen someone at my size or my look doing things like that.
Who's the best guy you've ever been in the ring with?
Oh, off the top of my head, probably Tyson Kidd, T.J. Wilson. He's so good, so freaking good. And it's a bummer that his career got cut very short, very very
Yeah.
short. But I mean,
Bryan Danielson?
oh, he's phenomenal. Yes, yes. We're talking like, I mean, like my favorite. It's so much. It's easier to make it a more of a direct question as opposed to like a general one. So like you're like, okay, like what's some of your best matches in AEW, which then were to lure to like some of the best people you've worked in AEW. Like that'd be Bryan Danielson. That'd be a Hangman Page. Takeshita was really great. We had that match. Somebody not in AEW that I think is probably the best in Japan that doesn't get the recognition he deserves is the former GHC champion Nakajima. I loved my match with him. I think he is phenomenal. I think he's the best striker and kicker in all of wrestling. But I mean, there's so many people. I just did the Roger Strong match too. He's so good. He's really good.
One more.
Hold on. We're going to
Okay.
come back.
Oh,
we
good.
got some
Take
set
a
up,
break.
so we're going to come back. We got more time with Brian. And to celebrate Brian Cage being in studio, we have a pair of tickets, third row on the floor, that we're going to give away when we're done with our conversation with him.
Well,
So
can I
Brian-
get those?
Yeah. That's great, man. Brian Cage in studio. We'll come back more with him. AEW coming to Moda Center on Thursday. When we're finished, we will give away a pair of tickets on the floor, third row, to the event on Thursday here on the Rip City Drive. Yes, and then how much? How long do you want this segment to be here? 10 minutes. Okay, perfect. So you ready for just me to open up the segment then? It sounds great so far, man.
Cool. No worries.
All right, Rip City Drive, we're back. Brian Cage is in studio getting ready for AEW Wrestling coming up on Thursday at Moda Center. I was thinking about this. There's all these different guys out there, like golf guy, we got gym guy. But for someone like you, seriously, how often do you get hit up for fitness advice? Because I can see that happening like all the time for someone like you.
All the time.
Like, hey, bro, man, like, I'm just trying to work on my legs a little bit. You got any ideas?
All the time, and every
And I
facet
want the
of life.
quick answer, too.
Oh, of course. That's what I said. I'll tell them. I mean, I have a few different go-tos, but one thing I'll say is like, listen, I'm not going to tell you anything you haven't already heard. Like,
Yes.
you're like, you haven't liked what you've already heard. You're hoping that I have the easier preferred method, and I
Yeah.
go, it's not going to, man, what do you eat? Oh, what do you do for your arms? Oh, how much can you bench? Oh, what do you do for this? It's always that. And even when someone really asks you, like, sincerely, you know right away who's actually serious about it, who really wants, like, who's actually going to apply it. And even then, even if it's people in the business too, or whomever, what I'll even do now is I'll tell them like, okay, hey, especially if they're like already started or whatever, like, what are you doing? What are you training? What are you eating? With this, that, whatever. I go, write it all down, send it to me, because now you have to do some work. And then 9 out of 10 times they usually don't, because so why would I put it forth any effort if you can't put forth that effort?
Yeah.
That shows me you're also not going to use it. But when someone actually does, you're like, oh, okay, this person's actually serious. They're actually trying to make a change, trying to commit to something. And then so I'm like, okay, then I'll actually do it. Even I remember when I was back in the early days of indie wrestling, and people would start to kind of hit me up, and I would start writing different programs for everyone. And of course, nobody ever used them. And then I was like, I was insulted. Like, I wasn't trying to rip anybody off or anything, but I'm like, how's how's nobody gonna, they're just gonna waste my time. So then when people would ask me, like, give me $20, and they'd be like, oh man, really? I go, if it's not worth $20 to you, that's just telling me you're not gonna use it anyway.
Exactly.
So why should I waste my time and effort? Like, just like, why even waste your time asking me when you know it's a waste of your time? Like,
I got it.
That's so true. I wanted to ask you, every wrestler's got a dream match. Is there somebody out there that you haven't had a chance to be in the ring with that you'd love to go with?
so I have 3 answers to this. So the all-time, magical dream match would be primetime Shawn Michaels, which obviously can't happen.
Yeah.
The dream match I've had since like I've started, which I thought would be possible, but maybe the door's closing on that one, has always been AJ Styles. And then the dream match that I have within our company when I first signed, which almost happened a couple times, is Kenny Omega.
Really? I'm surprised you've never, because he was indie for a while.
Yeah. No, we've never. In the Indies too. I was only on a couple of shows with him. Obviously, we didn't do anything. Same with AJ too. But like, yeah, we've never crossed paths. And actually, last year, I was doing this 2-week tour in Australia, World Series of Wrestling, phenomenal place down there. And I was coming back home, and I get a call in the middle of the tour because I had that weekend off. I was flying back in on a Saturday, and I got a call from Tony asking me to come in on to that Collision. He's like, "Hey, can we switch your flight and bring you to Collision?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." In my head, I'm like, "No, I don't want to." Like,
Yeah, right.
I just been traveling around this continent for 2 weeks. I'm gonna go home, But I'm like, "Ah, sure, yeah, whatever." He goes, "Yeah, I want to give you a big win, and set you up for a match on Wednesday." And I go, "Okay, what are you talking?" And he goes, "Well, let's just say it's gonna be a dream match." And I'm like, "Shut the front door. Are we talking Kenny Omega?" And he just like put like a smiley face. I'm like, "Oh, so I'm so stoked." That night, I freaking tore my quad tendon in my left knee, and I still flew back. I missed a couple shows. I did the last show in Australia. It was just a squash match with a local guy because I couldn't do a normal match. I taped it all up and just to see how well I could move. I thought it would give me a lot more confidence. It did not. It destroyed my confidence. Like that, I couldn't do anything. So I still flew to Toledo, Ohio. Tried to work with tried to have the matches up for Kenny, and the doctors weren't clearing me. And so long story long. It didn't get to happen, but it was that close. And I know I did get to have the little bit of something with him in the street fight we did. There was a big 4-on-4 street fight deal,
Yeah.
but and now he's been out. So hopefully he comes back sooner than later, and we can make it happen.
Hey, Brian, what is that moment for you? When you hear football players talk about coming off an injury, maybe an ACL or, some type of knee injury, it's always that first hit where they get popped and then they feel like, okay, I can do this, right? What is that for a wrestler? Is it a move in a ring? When's that moment where you can trust that body again after coming off an injury?
It's weird too. Well, it's funny too because even that happened. I still did the rest of the match. Like I knew my knee was jacked. And I was like, and I keep shaking out. And the longer the match went, I'm like, this isn't good. This isn't good. And it kind of goes with that feeling of wrestling too. We're like, oh, the show must go on. And of course, you never want to admit that you're hurt. You're always hoping for the best, or you can work around it or whatever. In my mind too, I'm like, I was going to train legs tomorrow. Damn it! But and it feels like, when am I going to trust this again? And then it's just kind of like, I don't know. You just, at least for me, I just, I do everything under the sun too when I get hurt to try to recover or rehab and get back to it. But there's always just like kind of a gradual, like, okay, I think I'm good. And like, you're like, just kind of go for it. Like, oh, I'm fine. And there's not like a big turning point or like a big check mark for me. I just feel better. I'm like, all right, we can do it. And then there is always, you want to overcome. So like, say if you did, it's not what happened, but say if I backflipped off the top rope to my feet and I freaking tore something, then you almost want to like, I got to do it. I have to I have to overcome it. Even if I only do it once and never again, it's like, I don't want to be defeated by that. I want to overdo it. Just be like, I won, and then move on.
A lot of people ask me, and I don't know what to tell them, but inside the business, what makes a great wrestler, like a Kenny Omega? What qualities do those guys have? Just so people can kind of understand the business a little bit better.
So there's different ways to answer that question as far as what makes a great wrestler. Because obviously, as far as I got some flack too about saying how phenomenal the match was with Bryan Danielson and Will Ospreay. Because I thought it was the best match of the year.
Yeah.
Because that there's like the sports based part of it, and there's like the sports entertainment based part of it.
Of course.
Right. Obviously, because like you got to be a great storyteller, a great charismatic, great on the mic, and that's what draws the general masses and the people, right? But obviously, like for me and loving pro wrestling so much, like the root of it, I mean, you got to be a great performer in the ring. You got to be a great athlete. Like that's the great control. Like, hey, you're a professional athlete, go out there and kill it. So like somebody like Omega, who has got plenty of attributes all around, but just everything he does in the ring is so smooth, it's so flawless, it's so like in there, it's just so great. So like when you watch a match, even if it's a phenomenal match, if it's just one off, there's nothing built. You don't watch a match and go like, oh, like that was the person was so charismatic, and that's what made the match so great. Like, no, you watch it, and if it's like a New Japan match or whatever else, you're like, holy crap, that was a hard hitting match. Like again, it takes it to where you forget that any of it is a possible work, and you buy into it. And go, oh man, this is real right now.
Yeah,
You know?
Yeah. It's not just entrance music and catchphrases.
Yeah. Which
Because
obviously,
there's guys that do that.
well,
doing
for sure,
that.
which works. There's never just one flavor of ice cream.
Yeah.
But like down to at least for me, and the freaking bold underline for it is your in ring performance. Like that's a pet peeve of mine too. I hate when people have bad finishers. If your finisher sucks, I'm always like, it's such a as a fan, it's a big pet peeve for me.
I so know what he's talking about.
I like that. He's connecting with you right now, isn't he, Godfather?
Well, I mean, I watched for years, and people tell me, "Oh, Hulk Hogan." I get it. I get that whole scene, with him. But don't come at me with like a leg drop as you're finishing. I don't want to see the elbow drop. I can do that. Okay,
Yeah.
I can do that.
I get you, especially in this day and age. Like I said, everything evolves. So like,
Right.
and I use that too when some people be like, oh, we didn't have to do all these spots or all this stuff. Back in my day, not throwing any shade, but like I said, I was a big skateboarder. Look at the X Games years ago. Look at what they're doing now. It's unreal. It's something you can't even do in Tony Hawk Pro Skater on PlayStation. I'm like, it's unbelievable. So like, why would every other sport evolve but not wrestling? Of course it has. So it's just how it goes.
All right. AEW coming to Moda Center. It's going to be on Thursday. What's your favorite number?
8.
All right. Caller 8 right now. We'll get a pair of tickets on the floor, 3 rows back from the ring, so you can see Brian Cage. 503-248-0620. Caller 8 right now, 503-248-0620. Real quick before you go, who are you going to be facing on Thursday at Moda?
I do not know. I just know I'm working Swerve tomorrow night in Everett, and I'm going to crush him, and then I'm going to show up.
That's like home court advantage for him.
Yeah, we're going to burn his house down. I don't care. Then we're going to roll on into Portland, and we're going to own the show. So we'll see. We'll see.
Brian, we appreciate it, man. You're the real deal, and you're an inspiration to me, and I know the Godfather loves you. So thanks for your time, man. That was
Thank
awesome.
you guys. That was a fun chat. Very
you
fun
approve
chat.
of that, Godfather?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
All right, Brian Cage. It's AEW. Call now. Caller 8 503-248-0620.
Boom.
Great job.
Fun. Thanks, guys.